Welcome to AMP Rapid Fire. Talent might open the door, but mindset determines how long you stay in a room. This is a Sasyn mental performance where we build athletes who become incredible human beings. Today, we got a guy. It's always good to have a guy who's lived it. A top 10 NHL pick, 7th overall with the Chicago Blackhawks, playing over 350 NHL games. But more importantly, a player who understands the reality behind the dream, the ups, the downs, the setbacks, the grind of proving yourself at the highest level. From the U.S. National Development Program to the Wisconsin Badgers to the NHL and playing around the world. Now, Jack is giving back to the next generation, helping athletes navigate the journey the right way. This isn't about stats. This is about perspective. So if you're an athlete, parent, coach, or competitor trying to figure out what it really takes, lock in, because this is real experience under pressure. Welcome to AMP Rapid Fire. Jack Skille, let's go.
Let's go. Thank you. What an intro.
I love it. So, opening question. Eventually, the role you play comes to an end, but the mindset you build stays with you forever. What does that mean to you?
Well, as a player, it's mostly about your character in the room, moving with the group, being a good teammate. For the younger players trying to make it into college, it's about your habits every single day in practice, but also off the ice in school, and developing those habits. And then, hockey stops at some point. Those paychecks stop rolling in and real life hits you right between the eyes. And those skills that you've developed to make it to a high level carry you down the road, helps you with other job opportunities, whatever profession you pick. So I think the character side of it is, and the mindset is the driving factor.
Excellent. There's going to be very few people who don't know who you are, but would you like to elaborate a little bit about your path, where you are today?
Okay. Well, born and raised in Madison, Wisconsin. Obviously wanted to be a Badger my whole life, got the opportunity to be a Badger, played Team USA beforehand, but signed with the Blackhawks after they drafted me, 2 years after they drafted me, and then played 14 years professionally, 10 of which were in the NHL and 4 of which were over in Europe. So then I met my wife after my year in Switzerland in 2019 and met a beautiful lady that lived in Park City, Utah, also a beautiful place in the world. And I figured, man, I might as well sink my roots in here.
Awesome. So right now, no thinking. Are you driven by fear or confidence?
Fear.
Why?
Well, I think I carry a lot of regret and resentment towards some things in my career. And, you are scared to fail at some point. I think that's just me being raw and honest. I think, that fear of failure drives me. I think I'm making a shift in my life toward the confidence realm. I think that's been kind of the ongoing process as I've transitioned away from the player to the potential coach down the road.
With that answer being said, how do you reset after a mistake?
For me, the work is to get to that confident place. And what helps me the most is mindfulness. My version of mindfulness through therapy, years of therapy, has been just sitting in a chair at some point, putting your feet on the ground and feeling the ground underneath your feet and catching up with your breath. I've learned through books that I've read that some people call it coming back to home. Bring yourself back to home. So that's been a thing for me over the last couple of years that's really helped when I feel I'm stressed out or I'm fearful of something or I'm questioning things or I've even failed and made mistakes.
So for me in 2020, I stopped drinking alcohol by choice. It just didn't mix well with me. And that tested my mindset immensely. What would you say moment or moments has tested your mindset the most?
Gosh, I'd say getting married first and then having a kid. I mean, these kids, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me on so many different levels. And it stretches your patience. And you're looking at this kid and he's a reflection of you. And you're like, don't be anything like me, please. Let's break the cycle. So I think having a child, but also the marriage has stretched me in ways I think my wife would say the same. And I think just that relationship with my wife and my son has really made a big impact on me over the years.
Excellent. What do you feel the difference is between confidence and arrogance?
Ooh, that's a good one. I love the expression. I believe Mike Hastings said it at one point. He's cocky, but in the right spot.
Mm.
And that to me is swagger. So confidence for me is you believe in yourself, you believe in your competence level. Like I'm experienced enough for this, I can do it. But you're also a good winner, and you might be a sore loser, but you're a good winner, right? And you carry yourself with class. Cocky, I feel, is rooted in insecurity.
That's an excellent point. Very well said. What one thing do you focus on when everything around you feels out of control?
My breath, if I'm
Breath work.
lucky in the moment. If
Yeah.
I'm lucky, I have the mindfulness in that moment to just take a walk, sit down in a chair, catch up with my breath.
So would you rather react or respond to situations?
I'd rather respond all day, but I fail every day and I react a lot. So yeah, that's the breath work part of it, is just like zooming out in the moment, coming home to yourself, thinking about it, maybe going for a walk, and then that's your response.
Right.
That's a great thing in hockey. If you don't react, you're dead. But in life, if you react too much, you're dead. So that's been the transition for sure.
So this isn't even on the script, but would you say you were an emotional type player when you played the game, or were you more of a response type player as you played?
Definitely reactive and emotional,
Mhm.
and impulsive. I was a dog that would hunt. I needed to hunt, and almost to a fault. It was hard for me to grasp the concept of less is more a lot of the time.
Interesting. What did failure teach you that success never could?
Ooh, failure has taught me how to be more compassionate to myself. I think when you have a lot of success, I think you can get to that arrogance level that I'm invincible. I think failure has taught me that I'm not invincible. That and it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay as long as we learn from them and change and not judge them. So for me, failure, looking back on my career and all the things that I would maybe deem failures, other people would say you're nuts for seeing that as a failure. That feels very real to me. But the more grace I've given myself and the more compassion I've given myself, the more in turn empathy and compassion I've had for others around me.
So
So I
true.
feel like failures taught me a lot about self-compassion.
What do you feel the greatest strength someone can possess, not only in sports, but in life?
Listening. I think God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. That's a thing. If someone saw this that knows me really well, they'd be laughing at that. I'm very chatty. I really like talking to people. And I think my wife is a very good listener with everybody. And it's when you're in that space and you feel like you're being heard, when somebody really cares about what you have to say, I think that's a really good feeling. And I'd like for people that are in the same room as me to feel good about themselves.
Are excuses valid?
They can be. They can be valid. I think that those are rooted in emotions, and they're rooted in expectations. And I think sometimes we can get our expectations and emotions, our feelings. We sometimes feel like those are reality. Again, when you zoom out, you get to the point where you're like, maybe I need to reset my expectations here. Maybe what I'm feeling isn't what that other person's feeling. Maybe I'm just, maybe there's a root thing going on with me, but that generally leads to excuses. I think excuses for me are an easy exit from reality. Um, I think everybody always comes back to reality.
No, absolutely. So as you're transitioning player to coach and parenthood, all those things, when you coach, would you bench a star player for a poor effort?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I saw it. I won't even say the name. I
Mhm.
was watching a game last night and I was usually unemotional when it comes to watching hockey on
Mhm.
TV. But last night I was like, you have got to be, I was yelling at the TV. I'm like, I couldn't believe the lack of effort. I will say, for example, in this specific situation, the player was capable
Mhm.
of getting the red line, and you're a linesman. He was
Yep.
capable. He's like 4 or 5 feet away. Instead, he punted the puck in hopes that it would die before the goal line. It turns into an icing. It's OT. It turns into an ozone face-off for the other team. I'm thinking the whole time, they're going to win off of this play. All the kid had to do was get the line. If I'm that coach, yeah, that's a heavy discussion. That might even be an out of the lineup situation.
Why don't you share a little of the experience? Because on one of the podcasts I heard you on, you spoke that when your father coached you, if he felt you weren't feeling it, even though you may have been the best player on the team, you didn't play in the last minute of the game. What do you have to say about that?
I think he knew how I ticked. I think he just knew how to get through to me, and he knew how badly, like how I had a motor. I had a motor. I was what Troy Ward would say. I had that innate internal fuel. And I wanted to be the guy, and I wanted to be on the ice, and I wanted to be an impact player. And when I, sloughed off a shift, or I, was playing poorly, my dad knew that about me. And all it took was for him to sit me out for a shift to really fire me up. And then I'd be like, then my next shift at that point would be, I was shot out of a cannon, and it was just like a reset for me. So I don't think that works for every single player, especially nowadays. I think you really have to understand how to reach these individuals. My dad really understood how I ticked.
Great. I remember hearing that story and found it very interesting. Do you feel leaders avoid hard conversations too often?
Good leaders don't. I'd say most leaders would. Yeah, I think good leaders do not avoid difficult conversations.
Great point. Finish this sentence if you don't mind. Someone has a killer mindset when they
never quit.
So, Jack, if we have a young athlete listening today and they're struggling with confidence, pressure, or mistakes, what advice would you give them?
I would say ask themselves where that's coming from. I would say, we were talking about it off recording here, but I would ask them, are you having fun? Are you having fun right now? Because you don't look like you're having fun. Whatever their answer is, I would say, well, what makes it fun? Now go do that. Make it fun again.
That's gold right there. Tell me about the funnest moment you had in your sporting career, your playing career.
Winning the national championship of Wisconsin was amazing to be around that. I mean, in general was awesome, but also it was in Wisconsin. I mean, Green Bay regional, and then Milwaukee Frozen Four. I mean, it was unbelievable. Then you look at the players that we had on that team and the careers that they had post college. I mean, and we're still together to this day, even via group chat. That was something special. I was a part of the Stanley Cup run in 2010, but just a black ace. I was an injured reserve player, but I got to witness that focus level. That was pretty special too. But nothing beats the national championship.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Is there anything you might want to add? Maybe I overlooked, or any point you might want to stress to the younger athletes?
Well, I think if this is for the athlete that's struggling with mental performance or pressure, I think that's the root of it. You're feeling pressure. And I tell the players that I work with in terms of development that, pressure is not usually an external thing. Pressure is usually internal. It's coming from ourselves. When we feel that pressure and we're feeling closed in with that pressure, we tend to go more and more internal and at ourselves, and we start judging ourselves and the negative voices or you suck, or you're never going to make it, or whatever those negative voices are telling you. They are not the truth. The truth is you're feeling pressure and an abundance of pressure because you are going at yourself. How do we break away from that pressure? What we do is we pull a teammate aside and work with them after practice. We pull a teammate aside and we do a warm up together or a cool down together. Or we help our equipment manager, we help our coach, or we help. And then next thing you know, you are paying more attention to service and you're paying more attention to other people and less attention to yourself. And that pressure should release at that point.
That's a great point. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up, Jack. Thank you so much. I'll hit the closing statement. At Sasyn Mental Performance, discipline today, dominate tomorrow. If this conversation helped you think differently about performance, share it with an athlete who needs to hear it, and follow Sasyn Mental Performance for more. Hammer the subscribe, like button on YouTube. That's AMP Rapid Fire. Remember, knowledge is power when you choose to apply it. Now go out and execute. Bang. Jack, thanks.